There we go.
Okay. We are now in order, or in session, excuse me. We'll start with item 30. It's Resolution 2021-0195, resolution relative to amending the City of West Dallas Policies and Procedures Manual, number 2601, bulk collection. And I see we have Dave Webking, Public Works Director here. Would you like to
Sure.
share anything? And take your mask so we can hear, we can read your
Thank
lips.
you, Alderman Rote. So what we had was a revision or the amendment of the current bulk policy back in December of last year. There we made some revisions, amendments, but also we included adjustment of the fees for permitting, allowing materials to be dropped off at either the Morgan drop-off site or the municipal yard at 6300 West McGill Avenue. In doing that, that was approved. Now with the brush season upon us, we included another amendment that it was done in the past where when we do collect and at the curb, we put a notice out for that resident or that patron indicating that there's a potential charge or fee. They have 7 calendar days to pay us for that, and then after the 7 calendar days, per this amendment, the Department of Public Works, our staff would go out there and collect it and then invoice that patron or that resident that is either renting there or lives there. If it's not paid within a period of time, then it would be placed on their tax bill. So that's the change that I made to that policy. I've also addressed the question of those items less than 1 cubic yard or less, put on there, it's free. So there's not any more questions or concerns to address any type of materials that is 1 cubic yard or less.
Would this be the reason I saw a lot of mattresses not picked up last week? Mattresses and big couches.
Yeah, there is, yep.
Okay, so you may
We
have-
do have fees for any type of collection that if we go out there, it's a $50 charge. So that's the standard collection fee for those type
So
of
they may
materials.
very well have said, I can save that $50, I'll put it in my truck and take it down there.
Correct, yep.
Okay.
Now, if they, again, haul that together, it's going to be more than, 3 cubic yards, so they may be subject to a fee. And that'd be $15 in this case.
Mr. Chair,
Alderman Rankin.
could you clarify, Dave, you said less than a cubic foot, so
Yard.
you will be
Yep.
collecting less than a cubic foot
Yeah,
for
so
free?
it's 3
And
feet by 3
That
feet.
is a bathtub,
Roughly, yeah,
roughly. So you still will be collecting that for free and won't charge?
correct,
But anything over, there is going to be a charge.
correct. Yep.
And how will people know what the charge is?
So we have been posting this, the increase in fees or the change in fees through social media.
Okay.
And also through the communications department, sending out publications and notices to all the patrons within the city.
I think, Dave, somehow if we could get it through the communications to get it out to the public, these aren't moneymakers for us. These are losers. I mean, to send a big front-end loader like that and 2 guys, and before that to send Lynn Frankie out there, and for just a little chunk of brush where you could just maybe 2 trunk loads take it. These are not moneymakers at all for us. We hear that with, oh, the city's making all this money off us because I got to pay to get my TV. No, we're just minimizing our loss, not maximizing it, maximizing our profits, excuse me.
Correct. There are services that we do provide for free. Recycling materials can be dropped off for free. We do have motor oil, any type of oil that you want to dispose of at the municipal yard. That's for free. I think you may have approved where we had a consultant that needed to do hazardous waste cleanup where that was contaminated, so that we incurred approximately $25,000 for that. So we do provide free services, but we're just trying to offset some of the labor time as well as the processing for these materials.
Thank you.
Chairman Rowe,
Anyone else? Alderman Grisham?
Dave, you and I spoke about actually the fees that we were going to review, possibly as far as what the yard is charging. This is a different item, but I wanted to know, based on that communication factor, could we put notification in the water bills, just to kind of give, in case we're missing anyone?
Notification far as
As far as what fees are going to be for brush collection, things like that, because I think a lot of people get confused. They're going to put it out, and then
I'll
also they're
have
going to get a
to-
bill, and they're not anticipating it.
there's a possibility that we could do that in the mailing, but again, that would be quarterly.
Right.
So we would have to.
I just think it's
That
an
would
extension of communication, so not everybody's on social media.
you're-
We're going to have calls that we're going to have to deal with as alders saying, well, why were we charged this?
Correct.
So,
Yep.
that's
We can
fine.
look at that.
My 2 cents.
Mr. Chair,
Alderman Vitale.
yeah, we've been really experiences, few people own properties in Miscellaneous, they feel that the city or the public works, they have to kind of babysitting the properties, and then they try to place the blame on in our city public works department, based on the reasons, They say, well, I didn't put this sofa here, I didn't put this TV here. So we do charge for bulk pickup for such, I said, pile of garbage, $75. So to me, we have to realize, I think most people know, the city pays money to dispose that. It's not a free ride. See, and that's what we've been incurring some problem with one property owners, and I call the landlord, but he's been giving the staff, and myself, so much hardship, really. To me, it was uncalled for, wasn't very appreciative, and that's why the city doesn't have babysitting absentee landlord. That's her job, to take care of their concern with the tenants. So, and that's why I like to bring up, that, people think the city, I'm going to charge for that, but there's incurrence. The city have to come forward by pay when we dispose that stuff. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Alderman Vitale.
Mr. Chair, will
Alderman Reinke.
will people be notified, say, if they have the TV, if they have a large amount of brush, will they be left a note or something to indicate what they will owe?
Great question. So the notification process that we have is a door hanger. The door hanger will advertise all the fees for various materials, but also it will have a indicating of a amount there that if they choose to have us collect it, here's the fee, either $50 or $100, up to 8 cubic yards. Otherwise, the alternative is that there's a charge, they have that option to bring and dispose of it at the municipal yard or at the Morgan drop-off site when that's open.
Okay, very good. Very good, because I've noticed there is a lot of TVs on the curbs right now.
Yep. And we charge the minimum charge for that from our vendor, which is $25.
It's all that stimulus money.
Thank you, David.
Okay, any further discussion? Is there a motion to
I'll vote
approve?
for approval, Mr. Chair.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Then we jump down to the public hearing items. Item 31, Resolution 2021-0168, resolution to confirm and adopt the report of the city engineer containing the schedule of proposed assessments for improvement of general area bounded by the east city limits to 68th Street and West Burnham Street to the south city limits by miscellaneous sidewalk repair.
Move to approve.
It's been
Second.
moved for approval and seconded. Any discussion? Okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, and the motion carries. And item 32,
Move to approve.
Second.
you want to hear the resolution number?
Sure.
I've been practicing all day.
Go ahead.
No, I'm kidding. Okay, it's been moved and seconded. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, motion carries.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
There's motion adjourned. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, we are adjourned.
Thank you, Dave and Pete.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
I always forget that adjournment part.
Yep, that's okay.
I like hanging with you guys.
Now we move on with the License and Health Committee members. I believe we're all here. I don't think we need a roll call, so. So we have new and previous matter. As long as all the person, Angelito, is sitting in front of me, I'd like to get on with item 35 in regard the ordinance to require face covering in public places. So we'd like to be, Mr. Kell would like to start first, or you want Angelito to explain something?
Yeah, I can speak to this. So I put forward this mask mandate,
Thank you.
I put forward this mask mandate because I truly believe that we are so close to the end of the tunnel. Like, I'm just as tired as the next person of this pandemic, and I want to return to normal life without masks, without fear of getting sick, without fear of hospitalization, without fear of dying. I had a family member, a relative, who passed away from COVID-19 last week, and it's been very difficult for me to process this, knowing that here in West Dallas, if we can do something to reduce the spread of COVID-19, to reduce the number of people getting sick, the number of people dying, I think that's a measure worth taking. We're on the verge of a fourth wave here in Wisconsin, and and there's been research out there how masks are effective. And there's research out there that does show that communities with mask mandates have lower rates of COVID-19 hospitalizations. And there's also concern that mask mandates don't do anything. People will do whatever regardless. There's also a Marquette University research that shows that mask mandates do increase compliance. And that's why I think it's really important. I agree, we are approaching herd immunity. I agree that more people are getting vaccinated, which is an incredible feat. And a huge shout out to our health department for doing a great job here in our community. But that doesn't mean that we should take our foot off the gas by open season without masks. I do think masks plus vaccinations, that's how we get over this pandemic, and that's how we boost our economy once we get over this pandemic. Because I heard people cite, like, people are getting vaccinated anyway, or it discourages people from getting vaccinated. Like, we have our health commissioner here who talk about how masks are effective and are needed, and we're not at that point yet of herd immunity. If we were at herd immunity right now, I'd say be gone with this mask mandate. I don't want to do this. I don't want to do this either. But I think it's really important if we can get over this pandemic sooner rather than later. I think it's worth this measure. So yeah, I'd ask the health commissioner to speak to this on masks, the status of vaccinations. Sure.
Yeah.
So I'll try and keep it in very simple terms. I think what Alderman Tenorio has nicely laid out is a very good analogy. I think another good analogy to use that I've heard recently is if we think of this in terms of a football game, we're at the 10-yard line. And, we're nowhere near a point where we can just kind of spike the ball and say that we have scored a touchdown at this point. So that's important to remember. We're getting close, but we're not there yet. I just want to make it clear that masks are not the be-all, end-all to eradicating this, or at least continuing to try and control the spread. Mask is what we know is one part of a multi-factor approach to just really trying to control this pandemic. In addition to social distancing, washing your hands, if you're not feeling well, staying home. But I just want to make it clear that masks, though very important and critical to what we call non-pharmaceutical interventions, if you take that piece out, then it's only going to lessen our ability to kind of get to that touchdown. I just want to share some numbers with you for consideration. We have, in the past 5 weeks, seen incremental increases in our case activity. As of our weekly report on March 10th, we are at 32 cases. As of today, we're reporting 87 cases. So the sequential, I mean, it's very sequential. It went from 32 to 37 to 51 to 63 to 87. So again, we are not through this by any stretch of the imagination. That's not just here, that's countywide. County is seeing numbers increase. The state is seeing an increase. Anybody who's been paying attention to the media knows that nationally we're seeing increases. And so really when we kind of talk about the importance of masks, to pull that out of the equation at this point would be the equivalent of just saying, okay, we're fine with just staying at the 10-yard line. We're not going to go for the points. We're not going to win this game. And I think it's just something really that this committee needs to consider. Other data to share when we look at testing positivity. So for people who are going in and actually getting the tests. Over the past 5 weeks, again, we've been seeing an increase from 3.6% to 4.9%. So again, we're seeing the numbers going in the wrong direction. When we look at the number of beds or percentage of beds in use by COVID-19 positive patients, as of 3/15, on March 15th, we were at 2.7%. As of April 5th, we're at 3.9%, and that's countywide. So again, when you look at all of these variables, case activity, testing, and hospitalizations, the numbers are going in the wrong direction. They're going back up. They're not going down at this point. And these little things here, the mask, again, though they're not going to be the be-all, end-all, they are a critical player in the mix of, how we need to kind of get through this pandemic.
Thank you, Bob, for your updates and information. I appreciate that.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
I have a question for Bob.
Yeah, go ahead.
Bob, if you're sounding like you're in support of this, why didn't the health department take it up?
It's, I think, going to be an opportunity for the commission or the council to actually enact policy that potentially could, have a little bit more representative weight attached to it rather than one member of a department passing an order. So as a collective elected body, this, I think, is a good opportunity for a council to, take a position.
Then I have one more question.
Yes, go ahead.
To just that point, I could ask Kale about the legality. Is it even in the health commissioner's power to?
Well, why don't we finish with
ahead.
Mr. Stefanski's, or Alderman
Tony,
Stefanski's?
yes.
My question is for Kale. I've been contacted by a number of business owners, and they are taking the CDC recommendations in their bars and their restaurants. And they told me point blank, if we put a mask mandate in, they will join together and they will sue the city. Can we afford a lawsuit like that?
The question is, can we afford it? Yes, because I would defend the case, so the city wouldn't pay any extra money to defend the case. As far as what would happen in that lawsuit, I don't know what the allegations would be in the complaint, so I really can't speculate, but I'd have to review whatever they're going to allege. I'm not aware of any very prominent cause of action that would be valid, because the council has the ability to create public health rules and ordinances that are effective throughout the city. It's a pretty broad allowance of authority under all state and constitutional and every other type of law that the city could set that policy if it wants to. So I don't know of any successful lawsuit that would occur as a result of that if the city council passed an ordinance like this. And
Does that mean we ignore the state Supreme Court?
I can get into the weeds. So the Supreme Court, what they did is they, I think, accurately, and how I would have ruled as well, struck down the governor's emergency order because there's a state law that allows the governor to do what he did, but only up to 60 days. In the orders, he basically tried to create a separate emergency to extend that 60 days out several times, which I think does defeat the purpose of that statute. I think the Supreme Court ruling was correct in striking down that emergency order, which was the source of the authority of the power the governor had to issue a statewide mask mandate. So I think the Supreme Court was 100% accurate in what they did. In fact, they applied the rule accurately. But that rule is entirely separate from what the city can do, enacting a local ordinance creating a mask mandate.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Okay. Alderman Tenario, and I'm going to actually address Bob on this too. And I'm going to back this up to when I first took my seat, and that was the onset of the pandemic. We as a council visited the question whether we were going to have a mask mandate or not, and we were relieved of our responsibility because Governor Evers made that decision for us. But when we did teeter on the fact of, do we do this or do we not, you were actually asked, Bob, can we enforce this? Now, I, as an alderwoman, look at ordinances as a law. We have a forfeiture set. It's not throwing jello at the wall, hoping it sticks. You stated that you would not enforce it. You would use this as an education piece. We are now a year later, and you've done a bang-up job. I think the education has really spread throughout the community. I, as a business owner, even after this mandate was lifted and overturned, still will wear my mask. I will still ask my patrons to wear masks. In knowing that when I reached out to say, okay, is our police department going to enforce this? I was told no. So we have a health department that's not going to enforce. We have a police department that's not going to enforce. And we have a community that has learned within a year. And you're right, we're not over this. But I think the responsibility then goes to our community, which I think we've done a really outstanding job. I stopped for gas. There's 8 patrons or 8 customers in Speedway today. 2 workers, all wearing masks. I asked them, are you wearing masks because you have to? Well, yeah, we were asked to by the corporation. So I'm seeing that there's going to be people that are still going to not follow this mask mandate because they so choose not to. We do have a choice as to who we patronize. I think it ultimately hits the pocketbook of a lot of businesses. I can rest assured I get a lot of people coming to for haircuts to me because I do practice safe measures, not just during a pandemic, all year long. But my concern really is I can't in good conscience support a ordinance in which is not going to be enforced. So what assurances can you give me and our council to say, okay, we have framework? And I'm going to just say one more thing. As a licensing and health committee, Bob, besides the updates that we've seen on social media, you have not come to us once to say, hey, you know what, we're in a critical situation where I'm going to recommend masks. It really shouldn't have taken Alderman Tenorio to come bring this up. But to speak to that, you know that we discussed this early on. And we are now at that final stretch. We're not there, and you're right, the finish line is there, but there are shots getting in the arm. So what now can you tell me is going to make a difference in putting an ordinance set forth, besides education? And I think that's what we've done all along. So I really don't understand this.
Yeah, you're right. We just don't have the resources in the health department. We didn't then, and we still don't, at this point. And so I think it's just, certainly looking at the opportunity for reinforcing the importance of wearing a mask, whether that's, through an ordinance or some kind of strong advisory, is something to kind of, take in mind. I just don't think we as a health department don't have the ability to enforce it.
Okay.
And we don't. You don't have the resources to do that.
May I add to that then? I think that was the specific questions that we had. Like I said, when I first took office, Dana Keene and I both visited this. And that's why we adopted the resolution upon recommendations that we are going to follow this said protocol. And our community has stepped up and done it. Yeah, we've had some, kickback on it. But I think overall, I think we've met the goal, and we'll continue to meet the goal, and let's just forge forward with that. Saying the importance is here, we're at that finish line, I think everybody's hearing that, and that's from Fauci right down to our local municipalities. I'm sorry, I think it was a rush to judgment, that everybody panicked as soon as the mask mandate was overturned. We didn't get to see data, we didn't get to see numbers, now you're bringing that forth. But rushing to that just on the assumption that we're not taking this seriously enough and that we can't trust people to make good decisions about their own health, I think that was the issue to begin with. That's what put the political divide on it. So we really have to take a look at this. You know, what would be the best for West Allis? I don't need to be Milwaukee. I don't need to be Wauwatosa. We have to look at our numbers, how it impacts our community, and go forward from there.
Mr. Chair?
Yes, Alderman Road.
I've heard the football analogy a whole bunch of times around the 10-yard line, but the goalposts keep moving. We did our part. We flattened the curve. We did. And everybody's wearing masks now. And those that aren't wearing masks probably been vaccinated already. So what is causing this spike? Apparently masks don't work. So it should just be the option of the individual.
Yeah, if I could, respond to that. Right now, we're looking at approximately 30% of our resident population in West Dallas having gotten at least one vaccine at this point. We don't have herd immunity at this point. That magic number of 80% that's kind of thrown out at this point. So we're a ways off, from having, herd immunity. Yeah, I agree. I think, it's been hammered away at people that masks are important, along with social distancing and other mitigation factors. And, to remove one piece of that equation increases the risk that our numbers are going to continue to creep up. Again, recognizing that we have vaccines available, we continue to make ourselves available to vaccinate people to the best of our ability, given the allocations that we receive, but we are still a ways off from that herd immunity. Granted, it's probably playing, a role because we do have folks vaccinated, but there's still a lot of the population that hasn't been vaccinated.
That 30% number of vaccinations, that's only through the West Dallas Health Department, correct?
No.
Do you get notification when, say, I go and get vaccinated from my doctor?
We have access to an immunization registry. So anybody who is registered or is actually getting a vaccine from an approved vaccinator, of which we are one, that information goes into a database.
And how often does that get updated?
If you're getting the vaccine, it should be within 24 hours. Okay. So we do know that there are certain providers who are slow to get the numbers in there. So in fact, 30% for one dose is probably a conservative number at this point.
The reason I ask is because I know through my healthcare provider, Aurora, they are doing it separate from, what the health department is doing.
Yeah.
So I was wondering if those records are being, are together.
They should be. Yep, along with any pharmacy who is approved to administer the vaccine, and really anybody who goes through the registration process. Yeah.
Chairman Vitale?
Yes, Alderman.
I have just a couple more points to this. Do you feel, Bob, that hand washing is a vital key piece to combating COVID?
I do. It's again one of those.
Should we mandate
variables.
it?
Should we what?
Should we mandate that? Should we put an ordinance out that we expect to see everybody in the city of West Dallas washing their hands?
I think that might be going a little far, because hopefully the practice is people do that anyway. As a person who is just growing up, wearing a mask is atypical.
Okay, so same with social distancing, same question. And I'm not meaning to be facetious. This is important. These are the key things and recommendations that we were educated upon. So should we now mandate that if we see you 6 feet close, anywhere closer than 6 feet to somebody, we should put an ordinance in effect? And as I said, that's kind of where I'm going with this. And yeah, it may be atypical to wear a mask, but I'll tell you as a hairstylist, I can tell you there's a lot of people who weren't washing their hands. And this is something that you think that you would have been taught from very little on, but I think people are being a lot more mindful as to the importance of these things. And yeah, believe it or not, as disgusting as it sounds, it was atypical for probably, I would estimate, 30% of the population that don't wash their hands.
Sure, no, and I
So
appreciate that.
That's really just my
Yep,
point.
no, I
I wanted to
appreciate
know where
that.
you stand on that, because then I guess we need an ordinance on all these things, because they really are recommendations. Thank you.
Okay.
Mr.
Now
Chair.
I have my 2 cents worth.
Oh, you too?
with
Okay.
this. The fact stands, I hear that we don't have the capability really to, in somewhat, to enforce, because once you pass an ordinance, you have to enforce it. So to me, it doesn't have no validity if the ordinance is not enforced. I mean, I wear a mask all the time. I mean, I was vaccinated already. I mean, the first one, the second one. So I'm happy with that. So, but the fact is, when you pass a ruling, you have to be controlled and respected by the authority. You have to issue citations. I mean, it takes additional, I believe, help to do that. It's not something that's going to be done by the police department without any additional cost. So, or the health department, Bobby just stated that they're not able to really follow through. So then the question stands, the ordinance stands for covering in public places. So, I mean, I want to be specific with what public places really are. Say I have a family and I have 4 or 5, my grandkids, say 7, 8 people. We all go sit in the picnic table, say McCarthy Park. So it means that a public place, it means you have to wear a mask in public place? What really the definitions of public place? To me, it's not clarified on this resolution, advisory resolution. It's not really clarified that. Doesn't say that. So the questions of, for a first offense, maybe it's $50, then it can go up to whatever the amount is, $200, $300. But this is not really, and then if we cannot enforce that, what are we doing? I think at this point, like here tonight, most of the citizens in West Dallas, they have been followed through with masks, really. I mean, I respect that. I mean, any place I go, whether I go to the stores, anywhere, people has masks on, really. So when I see even people driving on with their cars, they got their mask down, but they got a mask around their neck. Really. So I do appreciate, Angelita, I think concern is valid, but the fact is, we need support. We need somebody to follow through on something like that. You see somebody down the street, there's no mask on, well, I mean, you have to, the police officer have to stop and tell them, why don't you have a mask on? They gotta give you a warning, or the first time it costs you $50. So, but if we're not able to follow through that, what are we doing? Really, what are we doing here? And I understand there is some crisis again, and I think if people don't watch it, we can have a drastic increase globally. I mean, it's been happening globally. We start going to Europe, Brazil. I mean, 1,000 people dying every day. I mean, that's something. That's a pandemic that really is nothing to kid about it. And I think we all understand that. But when we pass ruling, whether it's a tariff or anything within our zoning or licensee for any applications that somebody comes forward, well, we have rules. If they violate, we're able to follow through. But in this case here, if we don't have the capacity to follow through, what are we doing? To upset some people within our community, business people, and maybe even citizens? But I'm telling you, I live down on the parkway, I see people walking. Many of them, they have a mask on. Many of them. Younger people, not older people too. I'm talking about younger people in the 20s, 30, I see them have a mask on. So the education already has been out there. I believe the people they're concerned, most of them. If somebody chooses not to have a mask, well, I mean, that's their choices, you know, I mean, that's the way I look at it. But if they go to the store, they gotta wear a mask on. But if they walk down the street, some of them, they don't wear a mask. And that's what really we are. So I appreciate a lot, Alderman Tenorio, what you're doing. I think, I know you're concerned. I think I'm concerned just as much, really, I do. But what we're doing, we passed something just to put them on a file cabinet, you know? I mean, well, we don't have many file cabinets anymore. It's all on the computer system, you know?
Mr.
That's the way I
Chair,
am.
Mr. Chair, if I may just add, I am not saying I'm opposed to any of the education pieces of wearing a
No,
mask.
no.
I will continue to wear my mask. I encourage everybody else to do so. I take responsibility as a business owner and for my own health that I'm going to do so, that I'm protecting myself and protecting you. I didn't get the vaccine just for me. I got the vaccine for you. I'm hoping that a lot of people pay attention to the importance of that. Even our younger generation that say, hey, I'm healthy. I don't get the flu shot. I don't need it. But guess what? Somebody has a grandmother who is immunocompromised and needs to be protected. So that's what I'm hoping that we achieved, Bob, in our education pieces, and that we continue to go forward with that. But I am really making my decision based on the experience that I've had in this past year and under the guidance that we've had from you. So, thank you.
Any further questions?
You wanted to say something?
Alderperson
I
Rosa.
also agree with my colleagues here. Basically, the people who wear masks now will continue to wear the mask. We don't need a mandate, I don't think, to make them wear masks because they are responsible people. I agree that education is very important, and I think that the Health Department has actually attained that goal, that we are educating our people in West Dallas, and they are adhering. I think the businesses also will continue to have the signs as they have now without the mandate. I appreciate Alderman Tenorio coming forth with this. However, my concern is my colleagues' concern. It's difficult to enforce. You have indicated it would be difficult for the health department to enforce it. The police department has indicated it would be difficult to enforce it. So what's the sense? It's just something on a piece of paper. It's the ordinance that we can't basically fulfill. And it's a waste of time then. I just am quite frustrated that it was even brought up because we were told we couldn't enforce it properly. So I think basically Alderman Vitale is right. What is a public place? Are we going to wear masks in parks? Are we going to wear a mask in movies? I mean, nothing is really defined as far as I know, in this ordinance as to what a public place is. So that is also something that should be considered. It's just that I don't think it's needed. I don't think it's needed. The people that wear masks will continue to wear masks. As I indicated, the businesses will also continue to have signs that people, when they enter, will have to have these masks as well. So without the enforcement, it's just void and it doesn't matter.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, Alderman Christian?
You go ahead if you have something to say. I was gonna
Nothing to
make
add, I was going to make a
make a
motion.
motion to deny.
That's what I was going to do too.
Okay, well, I make a motion to deny.
Second.
All in favor of denial?
Aye.
Aye. So the motion not passing have been denial.
Yep.
Correct.
Opposed? The ayes have it.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
can the record reflect that as a motion to table indefinitely? Normally, you wouldn't normally move to deny something that hasn't been proposed officially yet. So you can just, literally just listed as to table.
Table it,
I make a
indefinitely.
motion to table
Second.
indefinitely.
Effectively killing it.
yes,
Okay,
yes,
We'll take the motion that was approved as that.
Yeah.
No need to revote.
yeah.
thank you.
Okay, good, thank you.
And thank you, Alderman Tenorio and
Thank you.
Bob.
Thank you, Alderman
Appreciate it.
Tenorio.
Now, maybe we'll take care of item 42 for Alderperson Keen in reference of the item 42 ordinance combine various entertainment-related licensing, single public entertainment license creating section 9.037.
41.
This one.
Yeah, that's 41.
41, I mean, sorry, but the ordinance created seasonal extension of license permits to replace temporary expedite extension of premises. So, Donna, I understand that she has, Alderman person, Donna Keenan, she has concern about the legality or the confusions of the seasonal extensions for the applicant for taverns,
Yes.
holders, you know, I mean, you have concern about that, and so,
Well, within the ordinance right now, there's 5 sections, a 5A, a 5B, and a 5C. I sent out the grid earlier. Everyone has a little bit that's the same, a little bit different, and I feel that it's very confusing, and we actually need to somewhat simplify. So while I did have 5C proposed, after speaking with Kale and really realizing all the layers to these events and what is classified as it and what can be have in that event, whether is it live music, is it just a radio, is it this many feet from a neighbor's house, is it this many feet, is there lighting required, is the lighting not required, is there fencing required, is there not? So there's just a lot, and I feel like we need to simplify section 5 to have one standard guideline. So a certain time frame, whether it be Memorial to Labor Day, and within that time frame, this is the standard that happens. Then anything beyond that is a separate application, and I'll turn it over to Kale, because we kind of based the guideline off of 5C, that kind of seemed to put it all together. So Kale, I don't know if you want to add anything right now, or, I
or maybe,
mean,
no, you can, sure.
Dana, are we looking to hold this
Yeah,
until the
we
framework
can
is
hold that,
done?
You know, we can hold it, we'll have that tonight,
Or are we going to visit it tonight?
or you want to,
So, Mr. Chair,
yes,
if I may,
yes.
so the question before the council right now is whether you want to enact the ordinance that was presented as a seasonal extension to replace the temporary expedited extensions. So that month-to-month thing that we've been doing, that'd be replaced entirely by this seasonal thing, which would be the Saturday before Memorial Day till Labor Day. And it would just be one application approved for those 6 months or so, or what is it, 4 months actually, however long it is. Anyway, so that's what the simplified version would be. In discussions with Alderwoman Keene, what we were talking about was maybe making that just the default standard at all times, so that you don't have a special event when you apply for, and there's not a separate one that you would seek for permanent extension, just to simplify and create essentially a base standard that anyone who applies under that standard, the council would not need to make any adjustments or changes, and it'd be a relatively straightforward process for that licensee to proceed that way. And then the standards that you would create would be something that you'd be okay with everywhere in the city. So any licensee that would come in to apply, they would follow these rules, and you'd be satisfied, whether it's the largest bar in the most busy commercial district or the smallest bar in the most residential district in town. Then, if you wanted to, you could expand that, but it'd be a separate inquiry. So someone who wants to, let's say, go past the time that you would set. Let's say everyone has to be closed by 10 p.m. on their outdoor areas. If someone wants to be open until 2 a.m., you have to analyze that one separately and decide whether you're going to approve that or not. And they'd have to be called out for specifically in the application if that's what they want to do. But if they just want to accept the default, then that'd be fine. So I haven't got the perfect language down yet. I'm trying to get it so it's simplified and something that can present it as an ordinance. But if the council wishes to, there's 2 ways to do this. One is to just simply enact the seasonal one tonight. And I'm guessing that's why our clerk has come to the chair, is because she's facing a lot of pressure right now based upon licensees seeking out their summer schedules. So if you enact it tonight, basically, what I would do in the amendment is take that standard and make that the default. So you wouldn't necessarily be putting the clerk in a position to have to learn something and then quickly relearn a different thing. It would just be phrased a little differently, so those standards that you enact tonight would be applicable in the future one. They'd just be worded a little bit differently, so there aren't so many options, and that would become the option.
So there won't be as
Mr.
much
Chair.
confusion,
Right.
in a way. Yes, hold on.
There's a committee of the whole meeting on Monday night. I was just wondering perhaps if there's a desire to have a council meeting just to discuss or consider this, because then you would have some time to write it and have it go around to the council members. Yes, I would like it as soon as possible, but I think that would be a better way if that's amenable.
Can we
What
discuss
would be
it?
the problem for us to just more or less kind of move ahead with that, and then we get the, I think would be the ideal way, really. And then Gail can just forward us some of the changes to modify the present proposal, you know?
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
If I was hearing you right, Rebecca, then you wouldn't have to review any of those other areas that you might have to take out that isn't in the standard.
Yeah.
So if you're okay with it and you're presenting it at that, we could most likely just go to Monday and add it on.
Yeah.
Can we
It's
vote?
up to consensus of the
What do you think going
Can-
forward? I
can
mean,
we
I want
vote?
to make it so administration has time to get these permits out and everything that you need to do
Hold
on
on,
your
Person
end.
Stefanescu.
Can we vote as a committee of the whole on it, or do we have to have an actual common council meeting to vote on it?
So you would need a common council meeting, but since it is committee of the whole, hopefully all the members would be present, and we just would need the mayor to also show up then.
Mayor Devine, what are you doing Monday night?
I didn't ask him first.
We just brought up if we could vote on this issue, modifying it at committee of whole, if we had to have a common council meeting, and we were told that we could do it at committee of whole, but you'd have to be present.
Monday?
Yeah.
I'll be here about ready for youth commission, so.
You could do it before the committee of the whole.
What time, 6
Time.
o'clock?
6, I believe 6:30 or 6.
6?
The youth commission is scheduled for 6:30.
6:30.
Committee of the whole is at 6 o'clock.
So this would be at 5:30?
Oh, you could schedule them both at 6.
Yeah, I mean, we could do both at 6, right?
We are talking April 12th, correct?
Yeah.
All right.
And that'll give Kale time, but, I mean, really what I'm looking at is when they have the license, they have the seasonal one right there that they can check the box, and here's the standards. It's Memorial Day to Labor Day, 250, here's the guidelines, it's just done. It's gonna simplify it. I've had a few owners reach out to me and literally said, do I go for B or 5A, but I want the outdoor, but I want the live music at this, but I want this. And I went,
Right.
I honestly don't know. And I sit in all these meetings. Kale?
The floor is yours.
And if I'm confused sitting in these meetings, hearing the language, talking about this, and then I can't imagine the business owners wouldn't be. So then it's a simplified, but it's still not putting handcuffs on business owners that if they do want to do that in May or after Labor Day, then that's just a separate review process. It can still be eligible, it can still be potentially approved by License and Health. So we're not saying it's only going to be these times, that's it, we're washing our hands. So I want to make that clear that there is an option to have it more frequencies than what we might put in at a earlier time than May, at a, like, if someone wants to go till midnight because of something. Items like that then would still have License and Health review.
And Mr. Chair, I was going to ask, actually, Dana, you just said we'd have license and health review, but would that be something that also could be reviewed right as you do already at, with administration approving permits? Or would these questions, like, okay, like you said, I want to go till midnight, that would automatically have to come to license and health for approval?
Yes.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
I think that would be better to go to the committee because you're representing the neighborhood.
Okay.
Might not have an idea of the specifics of the area.
Okay, thank you.
Very good. So,
Do we need to make a motion then?
Motion?
No.
no, we don't
Hold
need a
it.
motion.
So a motion to postpone to April 12th, common council meeting would be in order.
I make a motion to postpone until April 12th.
Second.
All in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The aye have it. So I would like to move on now with the resolution sponsored by Alderperson Senorio about the Asian American Pacific Islander communities. So, go ahead.
Yeah, I spoke to this
I think so.
earlier today, and I think it's really important to name specifically what is happening to the Asian American Pacific Islander community, to call out and to condemn what's happening to the AAPI community. And I appreciate the alderman from the 2nd District bringing up other hate crimes and other forms of violence against other communities. That's really important. And I would agree what the alderman from the 5th suggested, if we could pass this evening and then potentially doing a second resolution at the next council meeting.
So you're gonna hold this one then, or
No, I want to vote on this evening.
vote on this one?
So,
Yeah.
As is.
Mr. Chair.
Alderman Stefanowski.
So, after reading Alderman Tenario's resolution, I went in and I included part of his resolution as the lead-off for this this amendment. So I'm not dismissing what he's trying to do. I totally respect it and I understand it. However, we have for too long in this country divided people by groups. We are not groups. We are human beings. We bleed the same. We breathe the same air, and we all have a heartbeat. So no group of people that we classify in is better than another. We are all equal. And we have seen hate crimes. A week after the shooting in Atlanta, there was a shooting in Boulder, Colorado. Where's the uproar about that? We have constant hate crimes that go on in this country against everybody. LGBTQ community, African American community, Hispanics, Jewish, everybody. I added Alderman Tenario's resolution in here to lead it off, but the rest of it is showing that we need to stand up and say all hate crime is bad, and we condemn it all. And that's the only reason I put the amendment forward to it.
Yeah, I do,
Mr. Chair.
Alderman Stefanowski, I do appreciate it. I read it, that's why I changed my view, in reference of, to me, this is America, I think, to me, we need to unify, I don't care where you came from, what ethics group you came from, anybody should be respected equally. So I understand the sorrow, what happened to the Asian American, the American citizen that are born here, and the fact that is that have been a problem in this country for years, not just 20 years ago, back in early 1900. I don't care if you were Irish, Italians, wherever there was discrimination, and it's been existing in this country for years and years. Not just one group, one specific group. To me, I think to unify the country, we need to have something more broad. I think it should be specifically for the unity of America.
Mr.
That's
Chair?
one land. There was a land that gave a lot of people a lot of opportunities. Not just one group, and you should not condemn just one group. It should be everyone. The resolution should be that we condemn any ethics disadvantage, anyone that is in this country, born and raised immigrants, that the residents in this country probably for 10 years, they're not a citizen, but still they live here. So to me, I think that's a proper channel to follow, really. That's what we need. And I understand the reason about the issue about the Asians, what has been occurring throughout the years, but it's been happening throughout the country, not just one specific or two specific ethics groups, everybody. There's been a lot of problems. We've been having a lot of divisions we've been having in this country, really. And with education and technology and everything else, we should be in a better place, really. This country is in a better place, better than many other countries in this world, really. Many.
Mr. Chair, may I?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, first and foremost, Alderman Tenorio, I do not want to be dismissive, and I think we're overlooking that part of this, and insensitive to how much this means to you, and I just want to convey that to you. So it being brought to committee for discussion, I think we need to not only acknowledge the fact that this is very meaningful to Angelito and those of the Pacific Asian community.
Yes.
I'm going to give you a quick story on this, and I'm not disagreeing that I think this is a segue, and I think that without stepping on toes, I think when I read the amendment, that's really what I saw from Alderman Stefanski, is that this was a segue for a larger conversation, that we encompass all colors, all diversity within our community, and we have to address that. And I think rather than looking at it as an insensitive measure, saying we're taking that away from the Asian community, I think it was really a point of discussion to say, hey, you know what? This is important, and I think we need to denounce hate across the board because, and this is the story I'm going to go by. You know, I live in white skin, and I don't know what it's like to be Asian. I don't know what it's like to be Black or Hispanic. I had a client in this past week, and we were talking about her hair, and I just asked her what her culture was. And she says, well, I'm Asian and Caucasian. And that was a segue for a conversation, which I do often with my business, with my clients. And I says, hey, you know, how is this impacting you? And she says, well, you know what? I'm worried about my mom, and I'm worried about my grandma. And I'm not so much worried about me because I don't look that Asian. And it broke my heart. And it put me in a different mindset. So like I said, I'm not going to be dismissive of what your culture is going through or your people. I'm not going to be dismissive of any Hispanic, Black, white, Jewish, LGBTQ. And I think that's what Tracy is trying to encompass. So whether I would vote 110% to pass this for you, I would vote 110% to pass it for you. And I think that's where we don't look at this as a tug of war and devalue one person over another, but I do understand that you want to raise awareness, and I think it's important that we do, and that we do acknowledge that. So that's just my point. And like I said, I don't know what it's like. I do know there's biases, but I'm not going to take that away from you. So I support you. I also support and denounce any other hate that's taking place in our community or around the world. Thank you.
So any other questions from the committee members?
There's no pending motion at this time, Mr. Chair.
No, we don't need a motion right now.
I make a motion to accept the resolution as amended.
Second. That was your amendment, correct?
Yes.
I better ask, yes.
Are we okay with that, Attorney?
Effectively, since it was rewritten, you're essentially moving to adopt it as you had presented it. So there wouldn't be necessarily an amendment, just be the version presented by Alderman Stefanski instead. Would be
Mr.
now on
Mayor.
the table.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I guess I'm a little taken aback by this because this has been in front of everybody for weeks, and I know you had initial concerns, but if you're all of a sudden worried about hate crimes, why haven't you done this? And
Why did we what?
why isn't Alderman Stefanski taking this up already? If it's such a concern, the language in here is very disturbing to me as we work to create an inclusive community for everybody. And I realize I'm saying for everybody, but an increase by 150% in cities of violence and hate crimes against Asian Americans. 3,800 hate incidents. It's increasing. It's the thing that needs our attention. And I think this council needs to pass something that supports, yes, everything is good, but this is what was brought forward. And if, like Alderman Haas said very well earlier, if you want to do something at our next meeting, that's great. I would totally support it. We need to do a lot of work in this area. But I think tonight, in my opinion, take it or leave it, is we need to pass what Alderman Tenorio put forward and not just change it at the 11th hour when he's worked hard on it. He's lobbied to get sponsors. He's done a nice job. I feel we should pass this and then take on the broader issue that everyone's talking about. So that's just my thought.
Mr. Chair?
Yes, Alderman.
And Mayor, you say why it took us so long, and I will tell you this, that when did the agenda come out? Like a week ago, and we heard wind of this?
Came out Friday.
Okay.
You did, yeah.
And then I was out talking about it. So it's only been 3 days. And everybody I talked to on my mother and father's grave said, why isn't this including everybody? Why is it just Asians?
Well,
No, there's no. It's just, this is what's before us now. I would ask you, why would you exclude all the other people, all the other groups? Why would you exclude them and just include Asians?
Is that a rhetorical question or like a real question for me?
It's a real question.
I'm talking about what's happening to the Asian American community, and I feel like what's happening is that you're being reactionary and saying all hate crimes matter. Obviously, all hate crimes are bad, but I'm specifically talking about what's happening to my community. And what's hurtful, quite frankly, is that when I'm talking about what's happening to the Asian community, what's hurtful is that you're responding, but what about these issues? What about these crimes? Obviously, other hate crimes matter and are bad and are worth condemnation. But you're doing this in response and in reaction to me bringing light to what's happening to the AAPI community. And quite frankly, it's tone deaf and it's hurtful. The AAPI community, we're hurting right now. We've been hurting. And I'm bringing light to this issue. And that's why I think it's really important to name what's happening to the Asian American community.
And what finally spawned you to do this? Was
The
it
shootings in Atlanta against
okay?
Asian
And the
Americans.
Gwinnett County Sheriff was way out in front of that afternoon saying, these weren't hate crimes, these were sex crimes. Don't smirk at everybody out there. I'm asking you.
They were against Asians.
Six
That's
of
what's
those
there.
people were Asian American. You don't think that has...
If they would have had a bunch of horses there, there would have been 6 horses killed. Like I said, the Gwinnett County Sheriff came out right away and said, these are not hate crimes. They were crimes towards the people that were working there.
Who happened to be Asian descent.
That is correct. That is correct. Like I said,
And you don't think race has anything to do with that?
I don't know.
Point of order.
Yes.
Point of order. I
go ahead.
think that, and not to be dismissive whatsoever, we're getting away here. I know that there was a motion made, and I believe there was a second, correct? I just want to ask before we would have to retract or move forward with it, Alderman Stefanski, in light of all of the discussion that we had right now, would you be willing to do this as a separate resolution and take this up at our next?
I would be willing to consider it, but but why take up another thing and spend time on it when we've got it right here in front of us?
I think we have the full support of the council, and I don't think that there's a single council member that would vote against it in consideration and sensitivity to the Asian community. And Alderman Tenorio, we could look at his resolution as it is.
So are you telling me that because of that people would vote against this one as well tonight?
No, I think we're going to vote yes regardless, I really do. But I think the points were made. And I think to do what we're doing right now really is demonstrating the divide, even though we're trying to unite.
Well, and that's why the very beginning of my amendment went to his resolution.
For those that have not read the amendment, I thought it was thoughtfully written in the beginning, absolutely, and it did. This was the segue, and as I said, it was the introduction to a bigger picture. So when Mayor Devine, you ask why it wasn't brought forth prior to, sometimes it's conversations or even a resolution, as Alderman Tenorio is putting forth, that brings forth those conversations that are very important. And that our community is, we are representatives of the community. I hear it every day too. This has been a serious issue. Race is a serious issue. Racism is.
Sorry, I'm having trouble with the connection. Please
bad.
try again in a moment.
I thought that was my.
Too bad.
It started talking because she said something.
But these are very important discussions we should be having, but I think we're missing the memo on this. And I think if anything, it's a teachable moment of how we can move forward. So I'm looking at it in a very compassionate, sensitive way. I'm not saying that you're not or anybody else isn't, but I think you were very vocal. My experience, as I said, and I shared that with you, when my client came in, I did not see that. I didn't see it coming, and I didn't see it until I saw it through her eyes when she said she's worried about her grandmother and her mother because she doesn't look Asian. That's a sad situation, so I'm not going to be dismissive to you, Angelito. I will vote yes, but I just ask you to reconsider if that's the case. We've had that already presented by Alderman Haas. So, and I don't want to upset anybody on this. I support either resolution, both resolution. You come back next week with a resolution against hate for Hispanics. Anything that denotes or goes against violence against people, you got my 110% support.
I myself really, Alderman Tenorio, he kind of emailed me in reference of adding my name on his advisory resolution. And I felt really, I felt, like I say, good about it because I knew from what really occurred, was said. But then I have to think about it, and and then with the amendment of Alderperson Stefanski, it kind of started digesting, the fact that is that if, like I said early, if we talk about unity, unity means that it's got to be addressed just for everyone. We have a black gentleman here too. So he could come forward and says, well, I need a resolution for my ethics group of people, the black people, the same thing. So then it shows we still continue a division. We still, that's my point. It's not the questions I appreciate and I feel sad about what happened. I do, 100%. But the questions it is, if we have a broad resolution, I believe it makes more sense in the face of everyone throughout Wisconsin and throughout we don't just do it for one ethics groups. And I understand what really happens. But it's been happening, things like that, to many generation of back group of people. Like I said earlier, I don't want to repeat myself. Everybody been through a lot of things in this country. I don't care if we're Jewish, if we're Slovenian, Serbs, and everybody else. Hungarian, I met people throughout the years. When I was younger, go to a nightclub. The guy escaped from Hungary, because of the country, the way things were so bad. So, people have been coming in this country from all over the world, So it's been, some people, maybe they've been here better. Some people probably have been disadvantaged in many cases throughout the history of America, But overall, we need something on the books, if we want to follow through with this common council of unity. That's what I call it, unity. That's the bottom line. Because that's still a thing, to me, I repeat it 10 times, that's like a division. We continue to divide ourselves, really. It's not the thing, nothing wrong for what and I was really happy when he emailed me about it. I was totally happy about it to go through. But then once I say, I do appreciate Stefanski, Alderperson, that what I read, the amendment, I felt it made a lot more sense. Sometimes I probably don't respect you as much, but I want to say I did appreciate the amendment that you prepared. So that's why, we have to kind of say move forward. Like I said, it's up to the committee. And I know there's a motion and a second on the floor.
Chairman Vitale, if I just may add one more thing.
Yes.
I was aware Angelito had sent out this to all of the alders asking for sponsorship. How many of the 10 council members do you have sponsorship?
We had 7 out of 10.
7 out of 10. Okay, so it's pretty a good amount of support. I just wanted to make that note. And we have a motion on the floor. We have a second. I guess we have to go to vote.
So a motion.
Refresh me again, we're motioning.
On the amendment, on the
motion
amended
is-
Okay.
resolution.
The amendment, we
The
should.
motion is to approve all of
As amended.
and amended.
Yes.
Now,
So-
may I ask a
Yeah.
question of Kale? Are we doing this in the right manner?
Well, that's what
The
I
way-
asked him early, I said,
Procedurally, it's essentially a substitute resolution. So it's fine, it's a motion to approve a substitute resolution, but it was, normally you would make that after the original resolution was proposed. You would make that amendment, but, I mean, effectively, we're getting to the same place. So it's,
I mean, it don't
everyone
make
knows,
much-
everyone knows what they're voting on. It's the version that Alderman Stefanski has presented. That's the main point, is everyone knows what they're voting on.
so we're voting on the amendment.
And then the
The
version.
amended version of the resolution.
On the motion,
To include
to
all.
include
Oh,
all,
include all, yeah.
to include all. Let's vote on, who's in favors or opposed?
All in favor?
All in favors?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you. Thank you, Angelico. Okay, now we start back to a normal meeting. 36, ordinance to remove special event permits exemptions for Class B license.
Move to approve.
Second.
All in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Then we move on to item 37, resolution to waive late fee for alcohol beverage license renewal application expiring on June 30th, 2021.
Move to approve.
Second.
All in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Could I get explanation on that one, please?
Sorry.
Yeah, that's to increase it or holding it?
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
we're in the process of switching over our software to a new software, and so we're finishing up development of that. Normally, people have to file their renewals by April 30th, and we're not going to get them out in enough time for them to have the ability to do that, so we wanted to extend it to May 21st, I believe. That will still give people sufficient time and us sufficient time to process it and have it come before the council for granting.
All right, thank you.
Okay, very good. Any more questions for Rebecca? Everything? Okay, motion?
Aye.
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 Opposed? The ayes have it. So then we move on to item 38. Class B tavern license for July 1st, 2020 to June 30th, 21 license periods. The Candle Company LLC, DBA, the Candle Company / 8100 West National Avenue, West Dallas, Wisconsin 53214, Agent Tedrick Timpson, new non-existing location. How are you?
Doing well, thank you. And yourself?
So what are you here for?
So I'm here. I'm actually, I'm a Texan, and I've relocated to Wisconsin. Been here for about 2.5 years. We have a store called the Candle Company in Texas, and it's a community-based organization to where we really focus on awareness of different issues that the communities are faced with. And as you know, over the last 18 months, we have faced some really dark times, and so our message is really to bring a light to dark places and bring awareness to breast cancer, to mental health awareness, to all those particular things. And so what we do in our stores is we actually invite consumers to come in, and they're able to sit down and actually make candles from scratch. And again, it's a stress reliever, something that kind of, again, helps different groups to come in and actually focus on, relieving that stress. And so we have multiple different entities that come in from a collaboration perspective. So a lot of businesses come in and do a lot of team building and collaborations. We have a lot of different community events where it's daddy-daughter night. The dads bring their daughters to create candles and all sorts of things of that nature is really pouring back into the community. The significant piece of what we do is we do serve wine during that particular session on some of those classes. So we have classes throughout the week for about an hour and a half, and typically consumers are walked through a process of how to actually create the candle from scratch over a glass of wine, just to kind of relax and chill out. So it's almost the concept of painting with a twist. However, it's really just you're not necessarily painting, you're actually creating the candles from scratch.
Cool.
Mr. Chair,
Go ahead, Alderman Rhodes.
I'm reading your discussion here. They can also enjoy a glass of wine for a calm, relaxing, and stress relief activity. With this license, you can have a bud and a bourbon making these candles too. Do you know that?
Say that again?
This is a full B.
Yeah, that's,
Would that be
We're
just a
granting
wine
a B.
license?
B.
A B license. This is a full-blown tavern license. So like I said, you can have bud, bourbon, whatever.
Got you. So the only thing that we typically serve is wine.
Right, typically, but you can serve the bud or the bourbon or whatever.
Okay.
That's what we're issuing. And I'm not in favor of that. I'm only one up here.
Can we amend it to be wine only?
So one specific condition the council could impose is the last one, or 12M, section 9.02, allows you to impose limitations on, it's worded very broadly, but essentially could be drink specials. So one special you could eliminate is you cannot offer any beer for sale or any intoxicating liquor other than wine for sale. You can impose that condition upon this license, thereby limiting the licensee to only offer wine.
And that's what you do, right? You have wine.
That is correct.
Right.
Okay.
But what they could do without this
Right.
12, I was just
12M.
reading it the other day. What was it,
12M.
12Ms.
Okay.
Yeah, so if the,
So by doing that now, then we can do the wine only in candle building.
correct, and the applicant didn't have a choice but to apply for this type of license. There's no license available for his particular business that would only offer wine. So that's the reason why he applied for this one. So if that's a concern, the council could impose that condition upon his license.
Mr. Timmons, are you in agreement with that if we?
Absolutely.
Okay, it seems to me that we just want to look at serving wine.
Yeah, because again, we're
Tavern, or
not.
is it a candle company?
It's a candle company. I don't think
It's
you're
very
doing a tavern, right?
confusing.
I can't wait to make some candles.
So, Alderman Rhodes, you agree upon his?
With that 12M,
Yeah.
Okay.
yes.
Okay.
If you don't mind, can you just explain that to me, the 12M piece?
So there's a part of our municipal code that allows the council to place a specific condition on a specific license. You know, every licensee has to follow the normal ordinances, but sometimes the council feels there's a need to put one specific rule in one licensee for whatever circumstance. In this case, if that is what the council proposes to do, you would not be able to sell intoxicating liquor other than wine, and you would not be able to sell fermented malt beverages, beer. You would just be allowed to use your Class B license to sell wine only.
Perfect.
So he agrees upon.
Yep.
So you can
those
do red
guidelines.
wine, white wine, spritzers, you know, you can make wine kebabs.
So I'll make a motion to approve with the stipulation of only selling wine using 12M.
I second.
Guideline. Okay, all in favor of your motion?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Good luck.
Thank you.
Good luck, Mr.
Look forward to
Thank you so
seeing
much.
your place open.
Take care. Oh, no, we had Mr. Paulie wait there for quite a while.
Polly. Could have brought your cat.
Oh,
I mean,
oh, that's another
20
hour.
minutes.
9:30.
My dog's in the car.
Oh, no. Don't say that too loud, I'll go break the window.
Item 39, Class B temporary extension application for Polly Pops and Eatery and LLC Christine Budiak, agent DBA Polly Pop and Eatery and 8031 West Spring Avenue. For purpose extension due to COVID, June 1st through November 30th, 2021. All Polly Pop Eatery parking lot with tents, food, and outdoor music. Second permit application for 2020, 21, 21, 22 license years.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, go ahead.
Polly And Christine, I commend you for coming, huh? I commend you for coming forward and asking for that big stretch of permits.
Yeah, last year we did basically the same thing, and then November was 78 and sunny for the first weekend. We had it till June, it's broken up to June 1st or May 30th, and then with the extension that we had to file to make sure it goes to June 30th, and then instead of going back in after, we were able to do some in October because it got cold, so we didn't do it. And I think the question was asked last time we were here, why we wanted to extend it, just in case something would happen, and to know it was. I mean, it could be 10 degrees in October, so it really doesn't matter. We followed the rules on the Fridays and Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays. So it was just planning ahead to do that is basically we don't know if something's going to happen with COVID or if it's not going to happen. You hear 800 million different things, and
Polly, if I may, I just want to kind of bring this to your attention. When we did the extension of premises and use, it really was when we were really looking to support our businesses through COVID. As we are still in that category, I have to take a look at these permits. That's kind of why Alderwoman Keene brought forth a framework now, because that was kind of that freebie, let's support, our businesses the best we can. That's the positive that came out of it, because now we have, some new ways of doing business. However, when you're doing a special event as defined within permits, it's a single permit fee of $75. You're asking for a permit to be basically blanketed through the entire summer into November, thank you, to basically have a summer concert series at your bar.
It's kind of like what we did last year. We were the guinea pig for everything. So it was an extension of premise. We gave up anything with Field Trip. If it would have been a different licensed premise owner of Field Trip, they could have ran music coinciding with us. So it's one thing that I believe this is I think when you do the extension of premise, it should be all year. There should be, you're not going to, we're in Wisconsin, so it's dictated mainly by weather and things like that. So, it's something that we did last year. We didn't have any issues last year. We are good stewards for the community. We've been in the community for 19 years.
That's not the point, Polly. What I'm saying now is you're saying you were the guinea pig and kind of the catalyst of going forward. You didn't reinvent the wheel. I mean, you're having, where I want to bring it back to earth here, is you're having a summer concert series. Okay. You have a monopoly on it. There's no church festivals going on. There's nothing going on. I've been to your Facebook page. You have 3 indoor. You have 3 outdoor. You're charging $10 a pop.
That was
ahead.
last year. Yep.
Exactly. So what I'm saying now is, okay, I'm not looking at I'm going to give you carte blanche for an entire summer through November and the following year for $75. I mean, that was really, like I said.
I didn't do anything for the following year, so that's what I don't know.
Well,
I did it till November 30th, and it's based on weather. Like I said,
right.
September could be terrible, October could be terrible, November could be terrible.
Right, it could be, but that's what, we're in business, you plan this out. If the weather's crappy that day, you take it on the chin. That's how it happens. Or you got a tent. You mitigate your losses. But if I may finish, I added up your days as you advertise now 3 events outside over the summer that you did. And if you were to do that consistently from June through November, you know how much your permits would be?
3 times 12 times, so $7,840 times.
$4,200.
Okay.
$4,200. So you have a decision to make, as far as I'm concerned. And this is what I'm presenting to the council. I would not approve a single event permit at $75 for a summer concert series.
So what's the difference between what she's proposing and what I have on here?
She's proposing, would you like to offer up the explanation?
Because last year it was all any day.
Yeah, so the proposal would be without any live music. So if you wanted to have live music, that would be a separate process. So if you'd want to just take the seasonal proposal, you could do so, but there'd just be no music outdoors.
Okay, so there's an issue because I have live music?
Anyone?
Okay, Kegels can't have any live music?
Pardon me?
Kegels can't have any live music anymore?
Bring up Kegels every time. So under that, can you speak to that?
So they have a permanent extension of their license. So you
And
mentioned-
that's what I tried to do, but I was told that this was the format to do that.
So you could apply for a permanent amendment to your license to constantly have your parking lot part of your licensed premises if you want.
Okay, and that's what I thought I was doing.
It also, though, makes you responsible for everything that happens in the parking lot 24 hours a day. You gotta be careful with that. The reason that I think that the Kegels is doing it that way is because that's no longer a street. That's kind of between their buildings, and they've taken on that risk. So if you want to amend your licensed premises permanently, you could do so.
Okay.
If you want it to be a limited time, then what you're doing now is the appropriate way to do it. The issue is that typically a special event would have been successive days as one event, and you get 3 per year. That's kind of how it's
Okay,
ordered.
and that's kind of, when I went to apply for this, there was multiple ways of doing it the first time. So we tried to do that so it would be streamlined for everybody else, and I had to go through everything from Field Trip and Polly's, and we did that. We abided by all the standards.
We didn't pay $75, we paid like a higher.
Yeah, we paid like $700 last time. It wasn't.
It wasn't
So, I mean,
$75.
I'm just saying, so, I've talked to Alderman Stefanski about this, I talked to Alderman Weigel. We've had no issues in the past. I mean, we've ran it, and the reason why we did sell tickets is to limit people, because we wanted to make sure there's that with fire code, it's like 1,600 to 1,800 people that we could have in a parking lot. We did it so we could limit to 400 to be 25% on the outside even. So that's why we did it. We as far as I know, we haven't had any issues. We haven't had any police calls or anything. So it gives us an opportunity to, I mean, summer, even with everything, it'll totally kill us if we can't have music outside.
Chairman Vitale?
Yes, Alderperson Christian.
I don't see how it will kill you as not having music outside. How were you operating prior to?
How am I, in winter? That's big. We're steady right now. We're still down like 16% to 18%.
Okay.
So it's not like a magic thing that all of a sudden we were able to keep up with our bills by doing those things. Those bands are $4,000. My tents were $8,000 to $10,000 a month. So there was some things that we took into consideration and said, okay, if we're going to lose our business and we're going to lose our livelihood, we're going to do it, and we're going to try to provide what we can for the community, because a lot of people came up, gave me hugs, and said, I can't believe we're doing this. And I still have people doing that.
Oh, I'm sure.
So it's something that it's a community thing. We've never had any issues with anything. I mean, if we want to if we would go to September, we go to September.
Well, and
But-
if I may say, and I want to speak to this because Alderman Weigel is out of town, and we did speak about this. Also, Alderman Stefanski and I did. It wasn't with a question as to whether it's a problem. It's the framework of this.
Okay.
So what I'm saying is, I'm not looking at it as one single event. If you want to have these bans, I think it needs to be revised, and you need to look at it. So under the direction of Attorney Decker, a consecutive night of Friday and Saturday would be considered one event, $75. If you're going to do Tuesday night, so you think about that in budgeting going forward. I'm not saying that. I'm trying to say, okay, well, we're money grubbing, but honestly, we have to look at that framework, because you're going to have a summer concert series, and then the next bar is going to do it, and the next bar is going to do it, and then we're going to have a problem. So we're not looking at, I'm not aware that administration or anybody said, okay, Paulie, we're setting you up for the framework to be the guinea pig of this, or the catalyst into this.
No,
I think that was really what you wanted.
No, well, I came to, and I told Steve, I said, you know what, there's going to be a lot of people that are going to need this. Is there a way we can do an expedited for that? Now, I didn't get the expedited. Everybody else got the expedited. They didn't have to go through a public hearing. They didn't have to go through it, giving up one business to make the other business.
Because there's been no one that has had tents and done a full concert series. There's been-
Lynch's did 4 nights a week music last summer.
I'm not aware
They did
of
it
what
all.
Lynch
Yeah,
is.
they did it all summer.
So,
Yeah, and Kegels
stand
did. So
corrected. My
there was a
apologies.
couple of them that and like I said, I'm one that's I take more chances than more people because I know if I provide a great product with to the community, it's going to be successful.
right, well, and I just
And
wanna
I
make-
don't have a problem paying a higher fee. I don't, and I understand that. That's why I do tents and different things like that.
Well-
So if that's a question, it could be a blanket month. Okay, blanket month, $400 for the month, or I don't have a problem.
Well, and this is what we're kind of looking at, is putting together a framework, and really it kind of came on the heels of what Alderwoman Keene was bringing forward in discussion, that we're trying to wrap up the difference, streamline it, make sure that it makes sense, so nothing's overlapping, you're not getting confused, we're not getting confused. But I want to make mention of something, and I have to do this because tonight we talked about mask mandates. We heard from our health department. We heard about the outcries from our community about COVID. And I have to say, and this, I'm not trying to be judgmental, but I took a look at your website, and every one of your pictures of these events outside that you had, and you're using this as saying, okay, we had to survive during COVID. I didn't see a single mask. Not a single mask.
The mask mandate, we're inside. The mask mandate, we're inside. Everything that we had, all of our staff had masks, and we did that. We kept them outside so that people could distance. Because there was times when some of the bands had 20 people in our whole parking lot. I mean, you know what I mean? And the most.
But that's up to people too, what
Right.
they feel safe with.
Well, we were looking at a
doing.
state mandate, so it really was, no, it's up to us as business owners.
Right, but I'm just saying.
Right,
be
but
responsible.
it was inside was what the state mandate was.
I
So
just
we
need to
fought-
be
we-
clear
yeah.
on that. You can
No,
say it's up to the people, but you're running a business, and you're responsible for
right.
public health.
And I also just wanted to ask you, when you were saying, so I can understand what you're saying, you said something about if you do this, then we have to worry about everyone else doing, like, what were you saying? Everybody else doing, all the other bars doing
The
what?
framework that we were trying to put together is to establish, so because this was kind of something new because of COVID, a lot of these things were streamlined because we might have never seen expedited permits, you know what I mean? But we saw it because of COVID and because we as a council and a city want to support the businesses. So that's why. So we're kind of in now that we've done this, and that was kind of that, hey, we're supporting you. Now we have to look at the framework of what it looks like, so it's not a free-for-all.
So that's what you're worried about, but I just.
So it could go on beyond COVID, is what you're getting at, right?
Yeah, we
Right,
want it
right.
to be a permanent thing.
Right,
But we
and-
have to have a framework as to what
Right,
that looks like.
and we've always been a steward of the city. We've always worked with them, even if we don't agree with things, we've worked and done that. And that's why I approached Steve, because sometimes when stuff needs a jump start to get everybody else involved. I think last year, the amount of entertainment and the amount of goodwill in all the bars and restaurants, Natty Oaks did things outside 4 to 5 times a week. They put the dog thing in. Places that Bronze has music all the time out on their patio. So things like that. What's the difference between, I mean, obviously size maybe is a little bit, but they can have 50 to 100 people on their patio, so.
I'm not saying it's a bad thing. Like I said, we just have to look at the framework of how that's going to be set up. I won't look at it as saying, okay, it's a $75 public event fee and let you go the whole duration. So I guess what we need to do is have that conversation. And Kale, maybe we can ask your advisement. How do we do that? Because I would make a motion to deny at this time. And then maybe you need the advisement from Steve or whomever, how we can frame this, and you can come back with, amendments to that request or dates, for
Mr. Chair,
example.
Would it be wise for him to come back after we've had that meeting next
Absolutely.
Monday, where we have the 3 columns of the
Yes.
4 categories? You know what I'm saying?
Okay, so as it is right now, I have from last year is to June 1st. Okay? And what was done tonight was where the 2 applications were blanket expedited temporary, the Buzzard's Nest and Paulie's, and that is through June 30th, correct, with how everybody else is to it?
Can you speak to that, Kale?
No,
You want 39?
On the expedited list, that was already passed.
they're going to be approved until the next council meeting. And then that's the problem, is every single council meeting, that same item has been on every agenda. So the approval happens only to the next meeting, and then they consider it again and approve it to the next meeting. And the idea was that if there was an issue, they just wouldn't approve it at a subsequent meeting. That was the temporary expedited extension. You're highlighting the problem with this whole situation is that we were trying to create circumstances as they were changing. There's really not something in the books to accommodate what you're looking to do right now. And that's why over the last year, they've been trying to mash these ordinances into something that would work for your idea. The idea, though, coming up on the 12th now, is to create a single framework where everyone applies under the same framework and lists what their specifics are so the committee can consider those specifics.
Okay.
So you're not going to be limited by something in the code necessarily that's currently limiting you if you apply under this future one should that pass. You would just apply, list what you want to do, and the council would consider it and decide whether that's going to be approved or not. You're highlighting the problem with the existing ordinance, and the temporary expedite was just absolutely a Band-Aid to try to fix things, but it's not a long-term solution.
So, let me ask you this. I've been in business 19 years, and I've not had issues. So, to do a permanent extension of premise, I mean, what is the drawback of that? Or
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
There's no drawback for you. You could just simply request to amend your premises to include the whole outdoors permanently, and then that would be it.
Okay.
The only reason that the council might not approve it is a temporary extension into an outdoor area eventually ends, and just naturally ends without anything happening, and then they could reconsider in the future. A permanent extension, they could not take that away or reduce that premises without there being some sort of violation of state law or city ordinances that results in them disciplining you.
Okay.
So it's a permanent thing, it creates a permanent right, and then no matter what happens in the parking lot, the council is stuck with that unless they take this additional action, whereas a temporary one is not so permanent, and they could just let it expire if there were minor issues. That's the reason that they may or may not approve
Okay,
it.
'cause
So it's a benefit to you to do a extension of your premises?
Like for permanent, right?
Yes, for permanently.
Right,
Permanently
and
extending it.
that's kind of what I thought, because we did that last year.
And-
You know what I mean? It's kind of confusing to me because we're trying to do what's right, and it's really messed up. I'm
think
sorry. It is, it's
for us, too.
confusing.
That's why I was
Yeah.
trying to say, it's like we have to put this together.
Yeah, okay, good.
It is confusing, because had you sought the permanent extension under a current code, you would have been prohibited from having live music out there. So you're highlighting the problem with the current situation, and
So
hopefully
how does a place like Bronze have outside music whenever they want to?
I'm assuming they have that as part of their licensed premises, and that you're allowed to have amplified music, but not live music, is how it's worded.
What? So they can play like a stereo, but they can't play a live music?
Correct.
They have live music.
I guess I've never been to Browns doing live music, so I don't know.
Okay.
But I would like to suggest that, for the Rebecca and the, for issue like this, next time we really, I don't like to really hold the rest of the council hostages, really.
And we are.
Really, in all fairness, I think we should have a special night meeting for a lingering meeting like this, really, in all fairness. I never liked this, and just it seemed like I did occur tonight, so we gotta change that, really. We have to, if something is gonna take more time, we have to have a special meeting, really.
And that would make sense, and I was going to make a motion to hold over, but I had to give you an explanation, and that's where we ended up getting into a discussion, because that was something on my mind prior to you, and I was hoping we would take you first, because you've sat here a very long time. So my apologies for that, but that's until we got this together and had a better understanding. So I don't know if you can get more guidance from the clerk's office.
Yeah, can I just add, is it a monetary thing? Is that the main issue? Because we haven't had any problems with anything. We run it clean, so that's what I'm wondering what the issue is.
The issue is just as Attorney Decker said, it was kind of like that Band-Aid during COVID. We just kind of put these privileges out there, in an emergency situation, really.
But
The-
Go ahead, I'm
Sure,
sorry.
the major issue is that under the standard ones, there's not really a lot of special activity that either the clerk's office or police department would have to do if there's never going to be events outdoors. So that's why that's a single application for extended period of time. If you're having events though at certain dates and with certain things planned, that's something the clerk has to account for. They have to report that to the police department. The police department has to be aware of those nights that there's going to be issues or larger events at certain places so they can inform their patrols. There's more administrative work that goes into planning for a private special event like that or a private larger event. So that's the purpose as to why normally each special event would be a separate fee as opposed to one 6-month-long special event.
Well, right, and that's why last time we paid an extra amount, because of the fact if you go, a liquor license is $700 a year, right? It's 700
something like
or whatever,
that.
whatever it is, and you go, okay, to run music during the year outside is $700. You know what I'm saying? Because I'm investing in all the rest of the infrastructure and everything going that way. So that's what I'm wondering. So it's more of a monetary issue than anything.
It's a monetary and bookkeeping issue.
Okay.
From our
Because because last year, I mean, as far as I know, we just ran when it was sunny out, and we didn't have any issues. But that's because we control
So
stuff.
at this point, we have to really move forward. Attorney Dacre will work on the,
Will we make a motion to deny as it stands, or do
we can
we?
just hold it.
Put it on hold.
I'd recommend
Hold it.
Right, so
Hold.
just a motion to put it on
till
hold.
when?
Yes.
Till our next Monday night meeting?
Yes, and you made that motion?
Yes.
I would recommend actually just the next regular council meeting because that'll give you an opportunity to review things on the 12th and it'll give Paul a chance
Okay.
to come back
So that'd be
to
fine.
know what he's dealing
April
with.
20th.
So do I want to talk to Steve and see what their plans are? Is that
Right behind you, you can talk to him on the way out.
So when,
Right.
if the council enacts a framework that works for you as of Monday, then you could come back for the council under that new framework. If it's not going to work for you and you want to continue with this plan, then the council would vote on that.
then I could go for a permanent?
You could also apply for the permanent extension in between if you want,
But they can also deny that.
But you can't have live music with permanent right now.
under the current
That's the
code.
whole problem. You can't do what you want with anything that we have right now after June 30th.
So we're trying to come up
So
with
you
something
need to
that
wait until
Okay.
works for everybody.
Okay.
So we're trying to figure it out.
Yeah.
So you're gonna come
I
back.
hope I don't have to go to the
So let's
hospital.
move on with,
All right, so it's on hold till whenever.
Till the next common council meeting.
Which will be 4/20.
Yeah.
420.
There you go.
mark it down, that's all.
420, isn't it?
All right.
Yeah, I was gonna say, that's,
We're still live. Okay, moving on. Thank
Thanks,
you both.
Paulie.
Hey, we'll see you. So we move on with item 40,
Thanks, Christine.
Thank you. Operator license, bartender class D, operator application of Thomas Rockmeyer, I believe is got a clean record.
Actually,
He's old, eh?
yeah, he was convicted from a 2018 case for 5 different counts of theft.
Oh, okay.
I don't know where he is, or if he's.
He wasn't in, this is
Oh, this is a pre?
to see if they want him to come, which
Okay.
I'm
Yeah.
So,
pretty sure they might.
yeah, so there were 5 separate convictions from a single case. It looked like it was a theft from employer situation. Hard to
I
tell
think his
from the record.
employer would want to know that too.
Right.
So that's all I've got though on him as far as recent history.
What's
You're
the,
gonna-
Bring him in.
I'll bring him in. I recommend bringing him
let's
in.
bring him in, yes.
Bring them in.
So we hold that one.
No, for a hearing, we make a motion to bring them in for a hearing, yeah?
Well, do you soft
Summons and
denials?
complaint, summons and complaint,
Yeah.
right?
So it would be a motion to deny pending evidence of
Evidence,
rehabilitation.
yes.
Yeah, thank you.
So if you want to make that motion, that'd be in
Make
order
a
this time.
motion,
My brain is fried.
Okay, what are we making a motion?
Making a
Motion to deny pending evidence of rehabilitation.
evidence of,
I make a motion to deny pending evidence of rehabilitation.
Second.
all in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Opposed? The aye have it. Then we move on to 41, ordinance to create seasonal extension. Oh, yeah,
already did
that's
that.
over.
That's one.
I need a motion.
42 has actually not been addressed.
Oh, 42.
Mr. Chair,
Yeah.
this was
Last
some,
item, Tom.
This was something that we had talked about several meetings ago about combining. We have 10 different type of entertainment licenses, and this is combining them all into one, where people would, essentially what we're trying to do with the extension, they would just tell you what they're trying to do at the premises, and then you would consider whether that's something you wanted to approve at that location, versus people trying to figure out if they need an instrumental music or a dance hall or a, one of the other 10 types of licenses. So it really streamlines it for people. So that's the ordinance, but the fees weren't in there. So one of the things, when I talked with Kale, we figured that we would have a standard fee of $500, but then there would be a reduced fee based on your capacity. So if your capacity was like 25 or fewer, then it would be $75. I do have a chart. So I was going to ask if it was okay to bring a fee schedule with this before the council on the 20th. So that's, and here's some examples of who might have to pay more or less.
Is that included in our ordinances as such right now? No?
It is not, because the fee schedule is a separate document.
I see.
So I just wanted to bring this to you so you would have it for the next meeting. You don't you can approve the ordinance if you want to, but you could wait until the fees are together also.
I don't have a problem making a motion to approve.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, I don't either.
No, I didn't.
So I make a motion to approve.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The aye.
I make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Again, I think it's,
Chairman Vitale, there was a motion to adjourn and a second.
all in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? The aye. Oh, my goodness. Gail, what do you think about it?
Yes.